with the first game. So the first game is going to be on Oasis, as I've said a bit earlier. Yeah, it's going to be double Oasis today, streaming, with the match from, or rather between Magic and TheMista. And the whole games, or rather the whole match that they played those 3 weeks ago was Zeus versus Odin, with TheMista playing his favorite god and Magic playing not really his favorite god. From basically the games that I have seen him play Zeus, he's not really all that or rather prolific with him and efficient. But still, looking how he's going to be playing against an Odin, that's definitely a pretty good matchup for him. So let's see how this is going to develop, or if TheMista is going to be making his really strong experience with Odin count. Okay. Well, we are looking right now, for example, at TheMista, who is starting on the left, and it's going to be a spawn where both of these players are quite close by to the wall. You can see it's basically the same for Magic at the top, which is usually kinda sucky because of tower positions, because you are having towers at the back, which are usually kinda useless, of course, but the ones in the front are of course going to be very important, and you can see that Magic is seeing the zebras exactly at the time that he needs to. Looking, for example, at TheMista for the zebras, he's also having them fine, so it's not really going to be any kind of problem. But to finish the thought with the towers, also back towers kinda useless, even though not all that much. You can see at least covering a bit of the gold, that's kinda the same for Magic, but of course it's going to be wide open from the front. Basically the same case right now for TheMista, so it's going to be wide open for the Odin, and Magic is already discovering where his opponent is, and well, it's still going to be taking at least a bit of time for TheMista to do the same, because his Ulfsark is just on the left, and yeah, his Kralin is on the right. So that's basically a standard start with double Ulfsarks to go for a bit more scouting and to basically get as many goats as possible. He has already discovered some giraffes and gazelles on the right. There's of course going to be happening quite a lot, some berries and also some extra gold. And curiously enough, that's just the first and second just now discovered by the goatees. Yeah, definitely not really great placement for him, not anything safe, so it's going to be making not really all that much of an effect to capture this TC, because of course he will need to make a whole lot more different stuff to make sure that he actually does capture some of the golds. In the meantime, we have seen a bolt on the Ulfsark, so let's see if TheMista is actually going to go for a second one yet again. I don't really expect it all that much, because that would be disrupting his build order, I'm fairly certain of it. As we are looking at pretty nice relic actually, 5% human soldier pierce armor. That will make quite a lot of difference, and especially considering that TheMista will probably go for his standard Ulfsark Raiden, that will definitely help them quite a lot to defend against towers and such. Better Belliger Gold Cat rate, pretty great one, as we are looking exactly at TheMista stealing as many goals as possible, but these two are going to be caught up with by Magic, who has probably seen that, and is definitely not going to be wanting to give his opponent all that many goats, as he would be losing them. Yeah, he doesn't have all that many. You can see that TheMista is having a few bit more, but not that much of a difference, so it should be pretty much fine for both of these players. To finish my thinking about the towers from just a few minutes ago, this tower is actually not all that bad, even though it could have been positioned slightly better, a bit more into the choke point, but still, it's going to be quite nicely defensive. For the bottom part, it should be kind of easy to wall about this part of the map, but at the same time, Magic is already working on destroying this wood line, so he definitely has to be careful, and maybe we'll want to use this second palm line for the defense. Cheat a bit. Oh, it's it's actually much better than expected. Oh yeah, so he's not going to be mining this all that much, and even though he doesn't know about it yet, yeah, this is definitely going to be a pretty big help, and he can make a very easy wall here. And even though he might want not to actually cut himself from the TC, still, yeah, it's going to be a very easy defense for him. Overall, when we are looking at the map, as Magic is already outside of his TC, quite far away, battling the hyena. That's going to be just a source of food extra for him. 100, yeah, let's not waste anything in there. Definitely could not be wasting this giraffe, but he right now is. There's going to be slightly better position on the gold definitely for Magic, because he does have basically back gold, as we are looking at Great Hunt being used on, of course, all the goatees. That's a lot of them. 13 of them right now, and that's exactly the reason why TheMista has gone for the extra Ulfsark to gather as many goats as possible, because of course, once he had all that many of them, he could have used the Great Hunt and gotten even double. So yeah, that's going to be lasting him for quite some time, even if he's forced to have a defensive, which is exactly expected, with Magic being Zeus. So we should be probably expecting advance into the next age sometime soon. We are looking at TheMista already in 11%, whereas Magic is not advancing yet, and he is still playing with 2, so it's almost looking like that he's gonna go for Hermes and not really Athena Rush. Let's wait for this for a moment. As if it clicked in, or rather, yeah, the TC clicked in. As Raven from TheMista is already scouting on the left on the monkeys, which is of course quite a good idea because that's the next spot where potentially Magic might want to move to after he finishes with the gazelles and the giraffe, which is still going to be taking quite some time. Well, interestingly enough, Magic was taking quite some time to advance. He's advancing at like 5:30. That's kind of late-ish. That's 9 villages here, 9 here, 6 here, 3, okay, 7, 4. That's still kind of late-ish advance, I would have to say. I would be expecting that he could be advancing like at least a village at a time faster, or at least maybe even 2, but it's not really the case. But he's definitely going for full-on Hermes and Centaur Raiden, so let's see how effective is he gonna be. This is definitely going to be putting up a timer on TheMista, who definitely needs to finish with those gazelles as soon as possible. Oh, this is horrible. How did she actually get there in the first place? And in the second place, if actually TheMista does kill her in there, oh man, that will allow like 2 citizens. Oh, this is bad. Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. 2 citizens gathering from her, and that's really pretty bad. That's not really ideal at all. So let's see. But definitely the later advance from his opponent is going to be helping him in getting as much from that as possible. But yeah, definitely TheMista could have been a bit more careful about it. But it's not like you could have done all that much. Maybe you could have hit it once, and then the Gazelle would have probably retreated somewhere. That could have been some kind of potential possibility for him, but he did not do that. And in the meantime, Magic is right now under pretty heavy attack by TheMista, who advanced a whole lot sooner, and that of course results in a pretty decent push. Fortunately, Magic losing just the Centaur in here. Quite bad, exactly as Odysseus is coming out to basically secure his base against the Valkyrie. As the Ulfsak with the Hersier are of course forced to go back into their home base as well. And the Hersiers, well, that's basically made because he wanted to have some kind of army from the temple, which was the only unit that he could have made while he was advancing into the next age, and he exactly expected, that is, or rather expected, knew by the build order that Magic was doing, because TheMista is pretty much the biggest expert on Zeus, so he basically knew what was going on. He had to make some Hersiers to defend against the Centaurs that are definitely coming. And yep, that's exactly nice thinking by him. Protection of the tower, which is of course going to be quite crucial, not the back ones. But going for armor, and it's almost looking like that he might be actually attempting a faster heroic. Let's have a look into the resources. Not really all that much there, but in the gold he definitely is, so it's almost looking like that he is going for that. Husbandry in place, of course, and well, that's pretty much it so far. As Kataskopos is going right next to the TC to check out what's going on, and Odysseus going for a bit more scouting himself as well. Wallin, so definitely going to be a lot of defense from TheMista. So it's really looking like that he might be interested in not maybe even only the faster heroic, but maybe even has faster Ragnarok. Would be some kind of idea for him, as Magic is not really all that aggressive as you would be expecting, just the 2 Centaur polymers just now going into the attack, but still, it's kinda too late, and TheMista is already quite nicely prepared and already does have some kind of army that he could be using for a bit more raiding. But he's probably expecting that Magic will be the one setting the depot, but that's not really the case just yet. Well, that's going to be on the last moment. Nicely seeing it. And retreating with the villages, but oh man, this one is... Oh, oh yeah. That was the bad pathing of Age of Mythology actually in play right there. And these 2 hits onto the village definitely shouldn't have happened, but since we are on the wobbly balance patch, it doesn't really matter all that much, because those 2 guys cannot really one-shot villager anymore. Some kind of army going to the left, because he's probably expecting that TheMista might be wanting to go for a bit more raiding, but he's going full on turtle. Full on turtle, like absolutely brutally with everything he has. That's kind of funny in here to see. As Magic is not really doing all that much, just producing the Centaurs as much as he can, and he does have the ability called Caterate, or rather, how is it called? Relic, inside his temple. Let's check, for example, on the economy upgrades. We are looking at Hendak's pickaxe, of course, with husbandry and hunting dogs, so basically all the base upgrades, whereas for TheMista we are probably Not going to be seen in hand axe and pickaxe, of course, because of the faster advance. And he doesn't really need them all that much. As looking at his resources, he's aiming in for the faster heroic, and it's definitely in his vicinity. But he needs to be careful about the housing problem, which is going to be coming into play pretty soon. In the meantime, Magic is kinda just not going to be allowed to do anything at all because of the nice and impenetrable wall in by TheMista. Let's have a look into his resources. Nothing in there, but has he actually clicked into heroic? No, he hasn't, so he's just basically going for second TC and hoping that he can outboom his opponent. And second TC being captured also by TheMista at the bottom, so it's going to be not only faster heroic, but also, on top of that, he's going to be having a second TC for some extra economy. Going exactly onto the spot, but it shouldn't be all that much of a problem. Yeah, not really for this raiding cavalry. Well, that is going to be almost dead, but with the Valkyrie present, he should be healed up, no problem. As the Herser is just not really trying to kill them, because of course he cannot catch them, but he's trying to make sure that he's going to be making those centaurs run away from the TC and allowing the Herser, together with the Skrailing, to be able to finish with the TC as soon as possible. And you can see already that the guy on the horse is already full health due to the Valkyrie. Some good micro going on from the TheMista. Of course, Magic is still unable to do literally anything at all. Even with the Wraith Horsemen coming in, he shouldn't be in time to stop the town center as it's almost up. And yeah, just those 600 hit points left. That's going to be pretty much fine, even with the kind of scary army right now getting into position. Oh, careful. Yeah, that wasn't really ideal right now from Magic, as he's already at the second TC finished. And there is some interesting scouting going on by TheMista with the Raven at the very back. Not exactly sure what he's hoping to achieve with it, but of course, since it is hidden in there, he will be having a quite nice line of sight on what is going to be happening in case something is happening at this part of the map. I'm putting back the Fog of War as exactly Njord is coming in, and that might be actually the reason for the Raven, because of course there are some palms and they could be used for the trees. They are going to be controllable on the Wobbly Balance Patch 2.0. That might be making for some very interesting possibility for him on an attack. Fortunately, Odysseus is not running anywhere. He's going to be dead. That's quite a big investment to be left for Magic 200 wood. And this is definitely aiming not only for the army, but much more importantly to secure the goal. And, well, oh, this could be a bit more trickier than maybe TheMista would be hoping for, but looking at the army and amount of units overall, he should be pretty much fine. It's going to be costing him a few units, but nothing more than that. He'll fortune be coming up without any kind of problems. Alright, so that's going to be probably meaning that Magic will have to change strategies, and I'll be expecting that maybe he's already advancing. Actually he isn't. He's still going for plow, so he's just booming from the 2 TCs. And maybe at this stage, let's go back for the resources yet again. Oh, he doesn't have the wood. I was maybe expecting that he might want to go for the third town center, but he doesn't seem to be ready at all, as he probably switched a lot of citizens, yeah, a lot of villages from the wood, because he doesn't need the centaurs anymore, into the farms, and he is going to be aiming into the heroic age as the next stage in his game. Moving on with the wall in TheMista in here. Not really interested in the TC on the left at all, but well, at the same time, I would be at least building a house in there or something, just to make sure that Magic is not trying to steal it. Because right now he doesn't have any kind of line of sight in there, and even though he's probably expecting that all the attention from Magic is rightly actually used on the right side, well, it's not really the greatest of ideas when you are having a turtle game like TheMista is having, to basically just give up town centers without any kind of line of sight. Yep, well, definitely could be making a whole lot more. Make sure that he is not surprised by anything. But at the same time, it's basically telling you that TheMista is feeling quite comfortable, not really being afraid even of the possibility that this TC might be coming into the enemy hands. And I kind of have to say that he does have a pretty good reason to feel comfortable, because these centaurs are not really going to be all that effective, even though, of course, Mountain Giant is going to be kind of asking for trouble. But yeah, there is going to be army coming into the opponent's space, and with the trees, with the Nyords got power, that might actually be quite a big problem for this town center, as those guys are pretty strong and tanky. And yep, you can exactly see that Magic is already recognizing that some trouble might be coming his way. He has probably seen it through the granary. as they are coming in, and well, stable going to be a bit late, maybe not even finished, but with all the army that Magic is already having, he could be just fine, especially with the Manticore right now coming in, which is quite powerful. But here we see the trees, and let's see how much this is going to change the battle. This is actually not a really good battle for TheMista right now, because he's losing a lot of units because of not only the 5 on the town center, but because of the mythical units as well. And the trees, oh yeah, well, I kinda think that TheMista was thinking that the situation is going to be a whole lot easier, that Magic is maybe not ready with the Hippicons, but he definitely is. He already has double stables, even some idols in here, as they are watching their villages getting slaughtered in there. But he's probably going to be paying for it very soon. Like about now. Even the villager is going to be helping in. But let's move back to the trees, as they are going to be killed quite easily because of just the mythical units, but not only them, but because of the Jason and the one last Hippicon in here. So unfortunately this was a pretty big waste for TheMista. Not exactly sure what he was expecting to achieve with it, or rather, I'm fairly sure what he was trying to achieve with it, and to take down the town center and maybe even the gold economy, but he kinda severely underestimated what's going to happen in there, and well, let's not be so hasty. Maybe it was actually a kinda diversive plan, because he did lure basically all the army from Magic into that part of the map, and that basically meant that TheMista was able to wall off the third town center, exactly something as you would be expecting on the left, possibly happening from Magic, but it's not, and it's happening from TheMista, and with those two long houses, he's making sure that this settlement is not going to be coming into Magic's power, and of course, right now, he's going to be making sure that the DC on the right is also not going to be making the same switch in allegiance, but of course, with the army of all those centaurs, not going to be all that easy to capture it all that much, but with those reinforcements, that's a whole another story, especially since the Hippicons are already mediums. So that should be walled down pretty soon, as TheMista is right now going to be attempting to actually capture it for himself before that happens, but of course, that's not going to be possible. There's a bit of raiding from the back going on, but not really anything effective. It's going to be just quite costly for Magic, as he's gonna lose probably both of these heroes. But yeah, at the same time, TheMista is not really going to be paying any attention to that, because he needs all the army right next to the town center, because that's the next important spot in this game. It's actually a pretty scary army right now for Magic, because even though he does have medium Hippicons, which are a pretty strong unit, he doesn't have any kind of extra upgrades, and we are seeing already heavy Ulfsarks and rather heavy infantry altogether from a TheMista. And even though he doesn't have any kind of upgrades, that's still a pretty strong army. And with the Jarls taking care of the center polemarchs, and if you throw in Axeman trying to erect the wall here again, he might be in a pretty good position to take the DC for himself. And this is really kind of threatening for Magic, because he definitely doesn't want to let that happen at all. In the meantime, looking at the minimap, TheMista is also walling in the middle between the oases, trying to make sure that he's not surprised, and also working with one lone Ulfsark on the town center on the left. And since all the attention of Magic is right now on the right side, and TheMista is definitely making sure that it stays that way for minutes to come, he should be pretty much fine. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he really finished with the town center without all that much of an opposition. Oh yeah, this is a pretty good idea on those manticores. They are a pretty strong unit against any kind of infantry that the Norse can make, and you can see that they are really a pretty big problem, because not only are they effective against infantry as any kind of ranged unit, their splash damage is, of course, making that all that much more difficult for TheMista to do anything with those guys naturally clumping right next to each other. So it should be pretty easy right now, I think, for Magic to stop this, especially right now going through Mythic, and is given some decent resources, not really for Titan or anything. TheMista doesn't have all that many resources either. Let's check if he's advancing as well. No, he isn't. Oh well, that could be actually a pretty big problem, because TheMista is still in Heroic and is going to be sticking to it for a bit longer. And with the Mythical Age, Magic might be wanting to switch into a lot of Myrmidons, and that will be a pretty huge problem. That's usually a huge problem for Norse, especially when they are aged down, as it's overall a pretty strong unit. And not only that, it of course does have some bonuses against infantry of the opponents. Oh, that was clutch. That was like 200s from being finished. That was super clutch by Magic in here. That was a bit of luck on his side. And if TheMista was sending at least a few more extra soldiers to finish the town center, it could have come up, but right now it isn't, and that's pretty big help for Magic, because he's of course going to be capturing it for himself just now. Market for TheMista, but that's of course not going to be any kind of safe trade route, as he's of course being raided by the remaining army and the manticores for Magic on the gold in here. And this is exactly the reason why I was saying that these gold mines are not really all that great at the start of the game for TheMista, as he needs to be careful about it. He does have at least some diversification, but Magic is diversifying his attack as well, and is of course leading to TheMista having not any kind of save gold yet, as the next save gold is pretty much this. Even though he does have a military building in there, yeah, it's not really safe at all, but he has to be moving for it, because on the right he's not in any kind of great position, and he needs to wait before it is stabilized so that he can return back to gathering the gold on the right side of the map as well. In the meantime, he's at least doing what Magic is doing, and that's raiding on the gold. And since he does have military buildings right next to his opponent, it's going to be all that easier, of course. Some reinforcements coming in, and well, even though Bellerophon is doing what he can to get away to Jason, it's probably not going to be enough, as this army is going to be just a bit too numerous, and those gold miners will be forced to move somewhere else. The situation for gold with Magic is slightly better. He does have at least this gold mine, which is more or less in his power, we could be saying. But with the hill fort coming up, the situation is going to be getting a bit more difficult for him moving forward. As of course the military buildings of the opponent right next to the resources of your opponent are going to be of course quite a lot of help, as underworld passage is even being used right now by Magic, because he needs to retreat with all the army into the defense, as this situation was not really all that easy, and he could have lost this gold mine, and he basically evaluated the situation in a way that without this gold it would be kinda toast, and it might have been actually true. It really might have been true. Villager coming in for the military academy, but unfortunately it's in range of Hillfort. And with all the army right now from TheMista being right close by, not exactly sure why he isn't going for it. Maybe he's not aware. Oh yeah, he isn't aware. Oh, and man, that's kind of unlucky for him, because he doesn't know that the underworld passage is exactly in this position. He just knew that potentially Magic was making some kind of military building in here, but it's pretty much it. And oh, this is quite a lucky break for Magic, who definitely does have the opportunity right now to go unnoticed into the back of the opponent's base, and well, that could be making quite a lot of difference in the battle. But at the same time, he still needs to defend, as Magic, or rather TheMista, is doing all he can to prevent his opponent from having any kind of easy game for himself. As he's also trying to assault the DC as much as he can, but yeah, not like Magic doesn't know about it. He's trying to at least wall himself up, because he does want to the trade route on the top side. Definitely going to be quite important for him, but he's not really allowed to do anything like that. And of course, those Jarls with the Throwing Axemen and the Wolfsarks are of course going to be quite important on that part of the map. In the meantime, though, he needs to be careful about his own base, because of course this is going to result in the hill fort getting done. For, as Magic is sending quite a lot of army into the battle, but he doesn't have all that many upgrades. Even though he is in the Mythical Age, he doesn't have little anything even from armory, which is kinda interesting. Almost housed, he does have a ton of resources, so he could be going for Forge of Olympus pretty soon. And I'm thinking that maybe he's going for it. Right now he's heavy infantry, and finally Balder from TheMista. So we could be expecting a pretty big surprise for Magic very soon, as the heroes of Ragnarok are going to be making a big difference. But yeah, those military buildings right next to TheMista's base, that's of course a problem waiting to happen. Poor donkey. That one's not going to live. Or is he, as those guys are trying to save him? Yeah, that's just a bit too late. Just a bit too late, but Market coming into a bit more safe position right next to the town center. But of course, this position is kind of horrible, because the donkeys are going to be sticking around it, maybe even being blocked by this wolf. So I'm not really sure this is all that correct, and he definitely should be working his way to get rid of the parts of the walls that are still remaining from TheMista. So this situation seems to be kinda handled for Magic, as the army is not really all that strong right now for TheMista. He seems to be a bit more thinking about the left and the top, as he is yet again losing the position here as well. Magic doing a pretty good job in the defense, but I'm kinda thinking that the heroes of Ragnarok are going to be making a whole ton of difference in the battle pretty soon. Not any kind of upgrades though for TheMista, which he definitely wants as soon as he goes into Ragnarok. Gonna go now? He probably should. Oh, this kinda hurts. Because if he wanted to go for Ragnarok with full amount of citizens, he definitely needs to somehow hurry, because those manticores are going to be killing them in pretty big numbers, as there's not any kind of safety anywhere close by, and it also doesn't seem like that there's any kind of army for TheMista. So yeah, he decides to call it a game, for himself at least, for the villages, and copper shields, copper weapons, or rather they are missing. Copper mail and copper shield is definitely not anything great, but it should be helping in the battle, of course, nonetheless. Let's check the amount of units. 120, so that's a lot of course, how is it called? Trade caravans, but of course it basically means that he was full popped on the citizens. As those Ulfs are actually trying to repair the wall from the back, and the Bellerophon is basically the only one who can jump on those guys. Well, those Lipicons from the back could also right now as well. But yeah, Bellerophon was definitely using his ability to the most of its effect. So this part of the map seems to be more or less okay for Magic, whereas on the left he's going to be having pretty big problems, as he has moved into next mine, into the next gold mine in the middle, and even though it is secured by the fortress, those heroes of Ragnarok are not going to be mining all that much, and they are going to be forcing those citizens not only to their graves, but also not to gather anything at all if they are hidden into the fortress. Yeah, that's well cast. That's actually well cast because he's catching also the second flank coming from the left. There's going to be a lot of heroes of Ragnarok right there. But unfortunately, it's not really all that much of a dent, as a much bigger army is coming through the left. It's going to be knocking on the doors, and with the extra army that was already getting rid of the economy right next to this front TC, or rather front TC, it's not like really front, it's gonna back TC with all it takes. It's probably not going to be defended all that much, because the army from Magic doesn't seem to be all that existing in here. Underworld Prestige gone, so not any kind of help from the bottom. And this is kind of interesting, because of course Magic is having a huge amount of army at the bottom, and right now he cannot go back there through the Underworld Passage, and he will have to spend a lot of time getting through the wall, and of course running across the map as well. So yep, this is opening a window of opportunity for TheMista, big as any window can be. And he definitely had to call the ceasefire, because that was a pretty bad situation. If he had lost the TC, which was definitely threatening in there, he was in a pretty terrible situation, as the TC on the right was quite potentially coming down as well, due to not only the heroes of Ragnarok, but much more importantly the fire giants coming from the Templar right next to it. Poor donkey. What route are you actually choosing here? Oh man, that's an odyssey of a donkey, and it's almost dead anyway. You can see that because there's this wall, and of course because TheMista is also finished with the wall in here. And unfortunately, is going to be finishing with the wall at the top as well, so this donkey is probably going to be switching into the same ridiculous trade route as he is right now subjected to at the bottom, and he's not alone. Oh man. Oh man. So ceasefire is off, as those deaths are going to be disappearing from the map, but the situation on the right side seems to be pretty much okay. But with the wall in on the left that TheMista was attempting to finish, not really being allowed to do that. I think there was some kind of army from TheMista in here. Or rather from Magic, of course. There's still a pretty decent army left from the red player. And that's going to be disrupting the gold gathering. Yep, even now. A lot of army, and even though Magic is having pretty much the best counter unit, the champion Hypaspists, does he have any kind of upgrades? Just base. As the heroes of Ragnarok are also at the base, so it's kinda equal. So they should be doing a pretty good job against them, but he needs to lure them into some kind of good situation, because he doesn't want to be outnumbered. Because if you are outnumbered, that means that of course the opponent is going to be having an efficient fight, more efficient fight than you are. And, well, right now it's going to be a pretty good fight for him, because the reinforcements from securing the town center at the bottom are arriving at the battle, and that's a pretty big problem for TheMista right now, as the wall is not even going to be in place, as of course Magic has broken through. Still a few heroes on the left, as the town center is right now at full health, but unfortunately his economy is not at full health. I was kind of expecting that maybe the TC would be housing a lot of villagers that are hiding from the farms, from the attacks. But that's not really the case. You can see just one citizen, literally, and he's literally out of any kind of food. He does have a lot of wood and gold, but he doesn't have any food whatsoever. And that's a pretty huge problem, because he literally doesn't have any kind of food income anywhere. Empty farms. Empty farms. Well, just a few farms in here. And since TheMista is right now going to be pushing for this TC, which is, I think, exactly because of the reason, because of the farms, that doesn't really bode all that well for Magic, and it's looking like that the Ragnarok from TheMista did its damage. And if he can right now come back into the game and into his economy well enough, which it seems like that he could be, because he does have pretty decent economy already, he might actually be able to somehow pull this off, even against a mythical Zeus, because of course the Zeus was missing all the necessary upgrades. And it doesn't seem like that Magic was all that prepared for what was to come with the end of the world. Yep, but Bellerophon, the bane of fire giants, is nicely ready, I'm thinking, quite soon. But he needs to be retreating from all those units, of course. And a lot of villages getting killed, of course, and with the throwing axeman being basically the counter unit right now to the champion Hypaspis, this is a pretty difficult situation for Magic, because he cannot even switch into Myrmidons or anything else, and he needs to switch into archers, which would be a pretty correct unit for him to be had together with the Hypaspis with Toxots. Or maybe even these dudes, Manticores, that's not a bad idea. That could definitely be making a lot of difference in the battle. And I'm kind of thinking that he wants to spend on Medusas as well, because Medusas are a pretty good counter to the Fire Giants as well, to turn them into stone. On the left, not much happening, just a few idols, as Magic is trying to rebuild its economy in there, and, well, I think it's kind of just a question of time before TheMista is paying attention in there as well, or rather, again. Yeah, those Ulfsarks are definitely aiming to see what's happening right next to the gold mine and potentially even next to the town center as well. But still, there is also kind of interesting operation on the gold by Magic in here, and I'm not exactly sure if TheMista fully knows. Yeah, he does. He does already. So that's a pretty good spot for him that he should be taken care of, because there's a gold mine for him to be taken care of. But it's almost looking like that he doesn't mind all that much, as he's not getting gold anywhere. He actually isn't gathering gold anywhere, he's having just trade route, and it's basically the economy that he's right now having. But since he's after Ragnarok, and he needs the villagers to get the food more than anything else, that's kinda understandable, and makes a whole lot of sense. Situation not really going well for iMagic. This is really looking like that TheMista is slowly but surely becoming the master of this part of the map, and that's a pretty big problem right now for Magic, because he's of course going to be losing the trade route, and once he does, he's going to be down to the last gold, as these golds cannot really be considered his power at all. And with the Ulfsarks trying to make sure that he kills as much food economy as possible, this is really aiming for a pretty tough situation for Magic, and he already is in a pretty tough situation. Even without those, well, quite costly idols, to be honest. But Manticores really making themselves count against all those throwing axemen. But so are the Fire Giants. And Magic, oh well, he's out of actually favor. He needs to send something on favor, because he cannot even build he cannot even make any kind of heroes. That's pretty horrible for him. And I'm not exactly sure if he fully realizes right now the severity of the situation for him. That without the favor he cannot really gather even anything, or rather, cannot make any kind of heroes. This is going to be the last Bellerophon for him. Well, that's, at any case, going to be resulting into this TC probably coming down reasonably soon. as this is literally the last hero that Magic is going to be having in this game, unless he actually notices that he is low on favor, which he probably doesn't. And that means that those Ulsars are going to be helping with getting rid of the gold, and yeah, this is really aiming into a pretty difficult situation for Magic, and he sees exactly that, and that's the reason why he's trying to diversify the game and go for a bit more Odin himself, but he's really not allowed at all to do that, because TheMista is doing that a whole lot better, and he's just slaughtering villagers in throngs, really in throngs, and Magic is just falling behind by the second, and TheMista is basically tightening the noose around his neck as much as he can. Yeah, this Raven just basically from the start of the game in here. As the Ulfsarks are going to be making an appearance next to the TC pretty soon, I'm thinking. And it's just a question of time before they are there yet again. And well, as he's looking on the right, not really all that well for Magic, even though he's at least able to repair the TC for a few hit points, but we are probably waiting for a few more Fire Giants to make an entrance, and that's going to be another attempt on the town center from the red player. Finished with the wall in, so yeah, there's not going to be any kind of units coming from Magic into that position, as TheMista is finally thinking that he needs to take care of this forward base by Magic, and I definitely agree, because this was one of the last spots that Magic could be getting gold from, and if he can get rid, not necessarily of the buildings, but of the villages, this is going to be a pretty big nail into Magic's, of course, as you would be expecting, coffin. Well, Magic is right now thinking that he needs to defend this part of the map, which I agree with, because this is the part of the map where he has a lot of farms, and he needs to protect them at all costs, because that's basically the crucial resource for him for the hyperspace. But at the same time, he has already lost the town center on the right, and that will of course be easily captured by TheMista, even though he's kinda angry on the farms. But yeah, he's right now having a huge amount of army on this part of the map, which is going to result in a very fast build of the town center, and it's going to be 4 versus 2 TCs for TheMista, and with basically economy in tatters for Magic, I'm thinking that might really be. We're just waiting for the inevitable now. And yeah, you can see that Magic is still not really paying attention to the favor all that much. Right now having at least one favor, but yeah, he needs a whole lot more if he wants to get some extra citizens or other extra heroes to be coming into his service from the gods. With the TC finish on right, it's probably going to result into a bit more focus from TheMista into his forward base. It's really looking like it. But still, there is a bit of life left in Magic, and he was almost looking like that he might be wanted to go to the left into those darks. And the Ox card just found the gold left in here from the Radiant a bit before in the game. But of course he's trying to push through, but the wall with 1100 hit points, that's going to be quite hard to go through. And with the Bellerophon being almost dead, it's not like this army is going to be mattering all that much. It should be pretty easy right now for TheMista to finish with this part of the map and make it his. In the meantime, he's having also second flank, right now capturing the gold in the middle of Magic's base basically. And he seems to be quite alright in this position, and since there are also still Ulfsarks trying to raid as much as they can, literally anything that moves. It can be villages or maybe even the donkeys in here. It's really looking like that TheMista was able to outcontrol Magic in this game, and really, this is quite some feat, because he was facing basically, he could be saying a counter god, one of the better counter gods to Odin or rather any kind of Norse, and well, he was able to overcome even the 3 versus 3 town center situation and being in heroic age for a much longer than his opponent. And well, the Ragnarok, and not only that, I'm thinking that it wasn't just because of the Ragnarok, did pull through for him. Yeah, just now creeping on his opponent. But yeah, this is basically pretty much a done deal. It's not only this temple and this shorter market is going to be making any kind of difference in this game, with those Ulfsarks being as bloodthirsty as ever and getting kills in by the tens. And the last Manticore, or rather one of the last ones. This is going to be one of the last armies right now from Magic being available in here, as the situation is basically out of any kind of power that magic could be turning around, and this is resulting into the resign, and well, GG, and well played by TheMista. Really well played from the very turtly beginning, emerge from his shell with Ragnarok, and even before that, into pretty problematic Radiant that magic simply wasn't able to handle. And TheMista was just literally all over the place, and magic was having pretty big problems with somehow making sure that he was at the correct places in the correct times. Let's have a look at the post game. Quite curiously, to be honest, the difference not that big in the score. I would be expecting a whole lot more difference because TheMista was killing a whole lot of units and economy, so that's kind of really weird. But yeah, the economy difference is pretty huge. That's basically double for TheMista, even with Ragnarok. Basically a reset on the eco. That's a big difference in the resources. 6. That's like 14,000 difference. 15,000 with the food. Well, definitely nicely played. Pretty good efficiency from Magic, but of course, TheMista was playing basically the trash game with the Ulfsarks and such, and it was quite effective. Well, GG.